From Reason Alliance Media, this is Season 1, Episode 7, the Menstruation Nation episode. I am Bella Constrictor, standing in for Ms Bea Haven. This week we have a feminarrative with Bella and Miss Thrope talking about periods and partners. New correspondent Frida Nipple joins us to discuss different period products. And finally, Jeanne from the PolyAskery Podcast joins Bella and Miss Anne for an unfiltered discussion about periods in our roundtable segment. Welcome to... what segment is this? Is this a segment?
Menstruation Nation.
Yeah, Menstruation Nation. You just heard Ms Thrope right there, and I'm Bella Constrictor. We today are going to talk about periods and partners and sort of our experiences with being, women who have periods and who date people who either have periods or don't. And those kind of experiences that we've experienced. Yeah, that makes sense. Experiences that we have experienced. I wanted to talk more about how some of my partners made me feel a lot of shame surrounding my body and my period.
And I'm going to talk about some good experiences I've had with partners and periods, because it's not all bad.
It is not
Sometimes
all bad.
It's pretty bad, but it's not all bad.
Great. So, do you want to go first? Maybe we'll start on a positive note.
Okay, yeah. So, this was my... let's see. Whenever I was just getting out of a long-term relationship in which there wasn't any the period involvement in that one is nothing to mention. It just was what it was. But I had a phase in college where I was I think my sister called it my hoe phase, and I was sleeping around with everyone. So
your slutty butterfly phase.
Yeah, my slutty. Yes, when I went from the virginal Christian caterpillar to a slutty butterfly.
Yeah.
So during that phase, I started hooking up with this guy who I had met, I think at a party. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I met him at a party, like everyone does when they hook up with people in college, and I went home with him and we slept together, and it was just like a normal hookup, but I got along pretty well with this guy. So we weren't really boyfriend and girlfriend, but we were hooking up pretty often. And so maybe like a week later, I was on my period. So I told him I was on my period and we needed to wait, and he was like, "Oh no, that's fine. Let's just do it." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So he put a towel down on the bed and we had sex, and then afterwards he was like when he took the condom off, it was there was blood all over it, and there's a blood clot on his bed. Super nasty in my opinion. And I'm not trying to kink shame anyone when I say that, but that's not my deal. But he was super into it. And he had a blood fetish.
I don't know. I wouldn't say that. Who knows? Because, I find... I don't have, a blood fetish. I'm not super interested in medical play or cutting or anything like that, like some kink communities or kinksters are. But period blood, fascinates me. And because I use the cup, I'm hands deep in it, every time I have my period, basically. But not, in a really gross way, but just, it's just there, and... I'm very interested, and I have pictures of my partner's penis covered in period blood. I just find it really interesting and really cool.
He took pictures and saved them. Yeah, after we were done, he took pictures of both of us with blood on us, and there was blood up to his stomach, and
oh, wow.
He was he was super into it. And also, I'm sure you already know this, being a sexpert, but orgasms are really good for period cramps.
Oh, so good. Yeah.
Yes. So that was a fun time of my life, and we eventually stopped hooking up. And now I'm with a girl, and girls don't care about periods well, that's a broad assumption, but...
Your girl doesn't care about it.
Yeah. So it's a lot easier when you are dating a cisgendered woman, because they understand the the period thing a lot better than guys do. But this guy was absolutely fascinated. Like, one time he, like, asked if he could watch me put a tampon in, which was strange, but I was like, okay, sure, whatever. And, like, he was like, can I do it? And I was like, okay. So
that's crazy.
He was absolutely fascinated by periods. I know, it really was.
Because, like, I'm super comfortable with everything now, and, like, the cup that I use, I can wear during sex, so there isn't a lot of, like, period mess, but it still, like, bothers me a little bit if my partner, like, tries to finger me. Like,
oh yeah,
I don't want his hands up there, but I'm fine with his penis.
Oh, it was a very intimate experience.
Yeah.
I don't know, it was like, I wasn't upset about it. I was kind of like, wow, this is something different that I'm experiencing. And that guy was kind of my introduction to I guess the world outside of vanilla sex anyway. So, because there was some other
stuff,
kinky shit he was into.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but that was like the first, I guess, like, non-normative experience that I had was him with my periods.
Yeah, the partner I'm with now, and have been with for a while, he was my third, well, not counting a couple one-night stands, but, like, third official sex partner, and so when he was just totally nonchalant about, like, period sex, and, you know, he was just like, yeah, it's fine, it's, like, extra lube, plus it's super,
yeah,
you know, it feels super good for you because, you know, everything's different and in different positions and all this stuff, and I guess I just missed the boat on teaching myself about menstruation. Like, I knew once a month I bled, and that was, like, it. And I was I was out of college. Like, I was way too old to not know shit about my body. But I think that a lot of the shame that I had felt earlier, like, through earlier relationships, and just in general, kind of, like, kept me from learning. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah,
I just suffered through it, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Also switching.
Like, you're taught from...
Yeah, go ahead.
You're taught from such a young age that you are gross if you are menstruating. And that's, you know, there's biblical reference to that, obviously. And then there's a lot of just cultural stuff. Like, you know, we just don't talk about periods. And if we do, it's something that we make fun of.
Right.
Like, if a girl, like, has red on the back of her pants or something, we're going to make fun of her for it instead of saying, oh, she's experiencing something that literally almost every woman experiences once a month.
So you mentioned biblical references, so that's sort of a good caveat for me to pull up my favorite chapter in the Bible. No, I'm kidding. It's my least favorite chapter in the Bible. Which is Leviticus chapter 15. And I'm not reading the whole thing, but half of it is about, like, discharges causing uncleanliness. That's what it says. And the first half is about, like, men having some sort of discharge, but I don't really know what, it's very vague. Like, what kind of...
Gonorrhea? Perhaps? I don't know.
Just some sort of, like, or if maybe he's wounded and is, like, I don't know. And then, like, verse 19 is like, when a woman has her regular flow of blood, the impurity of her monthly period will last 7 days, and anyone who touches her will be unclean till evening. I want to point out that I'm reading from the NIV translation, and it's like a woman's devotional Bible, so I don't know how the wording, like, changes based on a Bible for women.
All right, continue.
It's fine. So
we chased.
It's okay. We'll put that for the patrons. So it goes on and on and on and talks about, like, how all the different things, like, if a woman touches this, it's unclean, and she's unclean for 7 days. When a woman has this is verse 25, when a woman has a discharge of blood for many days at a time other than her monthly period, or if that discharge continues beyond her period, she will be unclean as long as the discharge continues. And then all the same advice they gave, like whatever bed she lies on is unclean, and wherever she sits is unclean, and whoever touches her is unclean. And then after that, she must count off 7 days, and then she will go to the priest and kill some pigeons or something. But my question is, so she's unclean for 7 days, plus whatever day she continues to bleed. And then she has to count off another 7 days before she can go to the priest and be cleansed. So I'm wondering...
Wait, so can she have sex in those 7 days?
Right, that's what I was wondering, because, that's when you're, ovulating. That's when you have babies.
How the hell... Okay, so...
Right.
I have a friend who was raised Jewish, and he was telling me that a lot of the sex laws in Leviticus and Numbers and the biblical books that talk about sex were to do with 2 things. One was making more babies, and 2 was preventing the spread of STDs and birth defects. So it wouldn't make sense to not have sex that week you're ovulating.
Yeah, but also, so some of that makes sense. For instance, in the section that it says that it's talking about the man with a discharge, it says if he touches a clay pot, it has to be broken, but anything wooden should just be rinsed with water, which makes sense as someone who knows ceramics, because clay is very porous. So if he's dirty and he touches dirty with blood all over him or something that's gross, gangrene, I don't know, it could soak into the clay. Stuff like that makes sense, but at the same time, a lot of it's not a good excuse, I don't think, for...
No.
But my favorite thing about this particular chapter is if you've ever, opened up or read the Skeptic's Annotated Bible, they kind of paraphrase this chapter by saying, God's law for menstruating women. They are unclean and sinful. Anything that they touch is unclean. Anyone who touches anything that they touch is unclean. Stay completely away from them, and for God's sakes, don't even think about having sex with them.
Lovely.
Yeah. That's my favorite thing. So I guess this is a good point for me to, dive into a little bit of, I guess, my past ex.
Bella's sex history.
Oh god, it's really not that. I'm not as much of a slutty butterfly as I would like to be, but the particular experience that I remember the most would be what I would call my second boyfriend, or my second sexual relationship, where I'm not really one to feel religious shame. I often joke that I'm too much of a narcissist to let God tell me I'm not perfect, and
yeah.
But I had this ex who basically refused to touch me during my period. And it wasn't a biblical thing. He wasn't invoking the name of Jesus or anything when I was on my period. He was just so grossed out about it that and literally it would be any sort of touch. I would go up to cuddle with him and he would basically think...
Really?
Yeah, well, because he just always is... Because I'm a super sexual creature anyway, so I would be really pent up sexually, and so I'd be like, oh, let's cuddle. Oh, you've touched me okay, well, now I want to have sex. You know what I mean? I would
yeah. So he's don't even get it started.
Right, exactly. He'd be like, nope, never, don't touch me. And so we lived together. This is towards the end of my college career. And I really began to dread my period. Because he was so insanely paranoid about pregnancy. So I would always tell him when my period started. And then he would just completely any snuggling up to him, and during bed at night he would take his foreplay and then remind me that the blood, and at the time I was still using pads and tampons, so I didn't want to have sex because I had a tampon stuck up there. It wasn't something I was interested in doing, but it was just these refusals, because I am a touch creature. I need physical touch all the time, and so that sort of rejection was really eating away at my self-esteem, and I resented my body, and I resented that I couldn't control my period, and on top of that I have all this, I hate pads and tampons because I feel they always smell, and so I always felt dirty and gross, and it was just really terrible.
As if you don't feel bad enough
right
when you're on your period, he has to make you feel like you're too nasty to touch.
Yeah.
All I want to do when I'm on my period is cuddle with someone.
Right? Exactly.
My first boyfriend / sexual partner, he and we didn't have sex when I was on my period because, like you said, like I have a tampon in there and I feel gross. And but whenever I would be on my period, I would go over to his house and he would like cuddle with me and like rub my back because I had cramps. And so I'm just thinking, like, I can't imagine if I didn't have like that experience. If I had had your experience, that would have been a completely, like, I would have a completely different relationship with my body in general.
Right.
Because I was taught by his response to it, I guess, that, you know, it sucks and I don't understand it, but I want to make you feel better, whereas it's like he was blaming you for being on your period.
Right, exactly. That's how it felt. But it was weird because, like, he was the only boy, and he had a mom and he had a sister, and he was just so uneducated. He would tell me that he just, like, felt like there was just, like, blood gushing out of, you know, my vagina all the time or something like that. And I was like, that's not how it is. I was like, it's gross, you're right, I don't want to have sex anyway.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that I don't want to, like, do other stuff, you know? And one of the things that was kind of, I guess, stuck with me more is the fact that, like, you know, period goes by, I know it's over, and then all that pent-up sexual frustration would come out, you know, but then he would look down and discover that I was spotting, or that, you know, it was, you know, because it's never empty until, like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Because there's always stuff up there anyway,
and you get,
would, like, freak out,
like brown spots and stuff in your underwear,
yeah, exactly.
And it's like, did you shit yourself? No, this is what my body's doing to me now. Like,
you're right. You're just like, it's over, but it's still, I've tried. I can't reach that. I can't. It's just, you're going to loosen some stuff up there, you know? And I would try and explain that to him, and he would almost, like, act like I had, like, lied to him, that my period wasn't over yet, and that I was just trying, you know what I mean? Like, coercing him into having sex while I was on my period. You know, he would just descend into this, like, sullen silence and leave me to lay awake blaming myself for not being clean enough.
See, oh God, he spent, like, a quarter of your relationship, like, feeling shitty about yourself because of that. You know?
This is true, yeah. Yeah, I kind of realized that, like, I don't really blame him, like, for all of that, because seeing, like, the lessons that boys are taught through religion, and sort of how women are taught to not, it's not like his mom was going to teach him about menstruation. She probably didn't even teach her own daughter.
Oh, yeah.
Know? But there seems to be, like, nothing more repulsive to God, and, like, by extension, godly men, than a woman during her period.
Ooh, you know, you're absolutely right about that. Wow. Actually, the guy that I was with who had a blood fetish was a Christian.
Yeah, well,
that's so, you know, I mean, there's an exception to every rule, but
of course. Yeah, because we don't fit in boxes like we think we do. Yeah, I don't know. I do have one last Bible verse that I don't know what translation I got this from, but I'm assuming I got it from the King James translation, but it's Lamentations 1:17, and it's talking about Jerusalem, who has, like, sinned and is being ignored by everyone, literally as she, like, cries for help and comfort, because they talked about Jerusalem as, like, this female figure, and the verse 1:17 says, Zion spreadeth forth her hands, and there is none to comfort her. The Lord hath commanded concerning Jacob, that his adversaries should be round about him. Jerusalem is as a minstress.
Minstress?
Minstress. As a minstress woman among them. So basically,
no one wants to touch Jerusalem.
Exactly.
Because she nasty.
Since I have not explored this, but you have a little bit, do you want to talk a bit about what it's like to date somebody who also experiences periods?
I've hooked up with girls, but never while on my period, and so.
But do you have any, like, have you ever talked, like, if you've, like, had conversations with them about anybody? It doesn't matter, but, like, about what it's like to date or have sex with or be. Basically, I'm just completely clueless and would like to hear your perspective.
Okay, yeah, this is... So, the connection is just really, really different, I guess, and that's hard. I don't even know where I'm going with this. It's just, like, a very different feeling than being with a dude. like emotionally, and I was just like, wow, if I was on a date with a guy right now and I said I was on my period, then he would be weirded out. But I was just like, this girl is just like, oh my god, me too. Do you have any Motrin? Yay! So cute. But yeah, my other girls that I've hooked up with, I haven't hooked up with a girl on her period either that I knew of. I know, sometimes it's so light that you can't really tell. I'm pretty sure that I would be able to taste it, though.
Right, well, that was my question, because, like, I don't expect or would never expect my boyfriend to go down on me during my period. I mean, I'm sure it's fine, but, like, meh.
Okay,
like, so you do that?
So, the guy that was really into periods went down on me while I was on my period, and he didn't have a problem with it. I was a little bit weirded out because, he had, like, blood all over his face, but,
yeah, I mean, I wonder about the health risks, if there are any. I mean, I'm assuming it's there aren't any, unless you...
There aren't.
Yeah.
I
honestly,
looked it up
it's never something I've ever looked up.
I looked it up after,
Wait. Let's call him Jeff.
Jeff, that's a good name, yeah. So after Jeff was, letting me know about his interesting fetish, I looked it up because he had asked me if it was okay if he went down on me before he did.
Yeah.
He had, like, texted me, like, that afternoon or something and asked about it. And I was like, yeah, I guess so. And so then I Googled it. And if you have, like, an STD or something, it's way more likely to spread if you're on your period. But if you're clean and everything's clean, then it's not going to cause any problems. Maybe if you, like, ingest a lot of blood, that could be problematic for the same reason that ingesting blood would be problematic for anyone, but it didn't say anything about that.
You should see my face right now, like, imagining ingesting period blood. Just...
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't really...
And, like...
He didn't.
Horror is not an issue for me, but...
Oh, but see, you know why this is an issue for you? Because you're conditioned to think that period blood is nastier than any other blood.
I mean, no, I don't. I literally, like I said, I use the period cup. My hands are covered in period blood a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know, I love... Like, the period cup has, like, literally been my saving grace, and I'm looking forward to discussing that on the next segment, which should be coming up in a minute.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so... Partners and periods, like, communication's really important, and I don't know, make your partners do some research if they refuse to touch you, or break up with them.
And don't be afraid of the pussy ketchup.
Don't be afraid of the pussy ketchup, like apparently I am. Hey everybody, Bella Constrictor here with a new correspondent, Frida Nipple. For this segment, we wanted to go over different products used to manage menstrual flow. We were inspired by a recent post announcing a new type of menstrual product that went viral. You see, Dr. Dan Dobbs, a chiropractor out of Wichita, Kansas, wrote this on Facebook. Have you ever woke up with your lips stuck together? It didn't hurt. It was kind of fun. All you had to do was wet your lips from the inside with saliva and they became unstuck. Well, this is the principle behind Menzies. Menzies is a natural combination of amino acids and oil in a lipstick applicator that is applied to the lips down under during the period. It causes them to stick together, strong enough to prevent leakage. That is, until the user urinates. The urine instantly unsticks the labia and allows everything to wash out into the toilet. Later, after receiving quite a bit of backlash from that little post, he made a second post, and oh boy was it bad. You as women should have come up with a better solution than diapers and plugs. But you didn't. Reason being, women are focused on and distracted by your period 25% of the time, making them far less productive than they could be. Poor grammar there. Anyway, moving on. Women tend to be far more creative than men, but their periods stifle them and play with their heads. Alright, one last little paragraph here. I'm skipping ahead. This post is very long, but I picked out a couple of my favorite parts here. He says, "You said that Menzies sounds incredibly awful. it is not. Even though women are secretive and try to hide the fact, periods can be gross, crusty, smelly, and incredibly awful. But the period itself is none of that. Rather, the diapers that women are forced to accept are gross and incredibly awful. No matter what color they make them in or the cute names they give them. They are still diapers, and women have been duped into thinking that they are wonderful. Not true! My dream is to have women free of the distractions, the psychological issues that go along with their periods, and to see what they develop. The end. So, Dr. Dan Dobbs is here to save us, guys.
Right, because I wouldn't have any psychological effects from having to use a lipstick applicator to glue my lips together.
Well, I don't even understand how, so the psychological effects of our period has everything to do with hormones and nothing to do with the fact that blood is gushing out of our genitals. It's just, he just has no idea. And of course there's a lot of backlash. But because of this, Frida and I wanted to give the rundown on the actually amazing products you can use to manage your period. And we've got a lot to go through, so hold on to your hat. Would you like to start?
Certainly. So this comes from Wikipedia, and menstrual pads. A pad is worn as an aid during the period to absorb menstrual flow. It is worn externally between the vulva and a woman's undergarment, unlike tampons and menstrual cups, which are worn inside the vagina. Pads have a sticky back that adhere to your underwear, and they have it in kind of different sizes. So there's panty liners, which are kind of for light days, and then going up the scale for progressively heavier flow, it goes ultra thin, regular, maxi, super pads, overnight, and then maternity.
And I just constantly just used overnight pads because it was easier, and I switched between overnights and panty liners for really light days, but I just didn't bother with anything else,
I started with the regular ones, but the tough part for pads is figuring out the right coverage so you're not getting your underwear all messy.
Exactly.
So I just rather would go with a big one and have the coverage. So for the disposable pads, of course, that's contributing to landfills, and there's the consistent cost. With the reusable cloth pads, you're able to wash and reuse them. Some people do make their own, and you can also buy them. There is a website called Party in My Pants, and they offer a free liner for first-time customers. They have a nice absorbable back on them. I've tried them myself. It's kind of a nice introduction and a little bit cheaper option for getting started. And moving on to tampons. A tampon is a mass of absorbent material, primarily used as a hygiene product for menstruation. Historically, the word tampon originated from the medieval French word tampion, meaning piece of cloth to stop a hole, a stamp, plug, or stopper. At present, tampons are designed to be easily inserted into the vagina during menstruation and absorb menstrual flow. Tampons, while pretty straightforward, do come with some guidelines, and following them is incredibly important due to the risk of section. Tampons, while pretty straightforward, do come with some guidelines, and following them is incredibly important due to the risk of toxic shock syndrome. We recommend to follow the directions on the package for insertion, choose the lowest absorbency needed for one's flow, to change your tampon at least every 4 to 6 hours, and alternate between using tampons and pads, avoid using tampons overnight or when sleeping, and consider using cotton or cloth tampons rather than rayon. So with cloth tampons, they are definitely an option for those looking to save money and reduce risk of infection. Reusable tampons can be purchased from a few online stores or be handmade. They can be sewn, knit, or crocheted. Making a sewn version is simply a case of cutting out a rectangle of cloth and sewing it into a tube, and then filling it with something absorbent like bamboo fleece or cotton terry, sewing it closed, and securely sewing on a string. Knit or crochet versions can be done with cotton or bamboo yarn, knitted tampons usually use the fact that a square or rectangle knit in stocking stitch will naturally want to roll. This rolling action makes it easier for insertion and removal.
And it should definitely be mentioned that whatever cloth you're using, you should look up, or we'll have some links, of course, but make sure you're using a cloth that is, I guess, cotton or bamboo or some sort of body-safe material.
Right, do your research before you put any sort of fabric inserted into your body.
Okay, so another menstrual product are cups. By now there are tons of different brands of menstrual cups on the market. All different shapes and sizes to accommodate the different shaped and sized vaginas. Of course, these aren't for the faint of heart because you will definitely get some blood on your hands at some point while using them. But the trade-off is being able to completely forget you are on your period at all. They all have a few things in common. Usually they're shaped like an upside-down bell with a pull at the bottom for easy removal. They should definitely be made from medical-grade silicone, which means they can be boiled and properly sanitized. If your menstrual cup is not made from medical-grade silicone, throw it away and buy one that is. Menstrual cups sit up in the vaginal canal much in the same place a tampon would, and the walls of the cup create an airtight suction. One of the beautiful things about cups is that you can wear them safely for up to 12 hours without removal or risk of infection. Obviously, if you're having a really heavy flow, you should probably check your cup and empty it out in the middle of the day. There are tons of instructions online describing how to insert them, and we will link to one of our favorites in the show notes. There is one type of menstrual cup I think is worth mentioning because it's a little different from the rest. It's a disposable cup, and currently only one company makes it. This company is called Flex, and they're brand new. There was another company making them before, but they went out of business due to poor structure or whatever, and Flex bought them out. Anywho, Flex is doing something a little different by selling this product as a monthly subscription, and you have the freedom to adjust how often you are sent your box of 8 cups. So for instance, instead of getting one every month, you could get one every, 2 months or something.
That's
It
nice.
is suggested. Yeah, it's really nice. I keep forgetting, though, to do this. I'm drowning in these cups right now, so I need to stop my subscription or pause it.
The mental image of a person drowning in a cup just...
No, I've got like leftovers from the previous company, and then I just got my first box, and anywho, well, let me explain why I'm drowning them in a minute. It's suggested that you should use a new cup every 12 hours, but I've been using this particular type of cup for 4 years, and I tend to use the same one throughout my period. I haven't had any issues. So basically I'm using 1 menstrual cup per period, so if I get 8 in a box every month, that's 8 months worth of cups. Which is why the other company went out of business, because it was 14 in a box, and nobody was buying their cup except once a year. The disposable cup is shaped slightly differently. Imagine a silicone ring with a small bag attached to it. It sits much higher in the vaginal canal, and if you see the show notes, there will be a diagram. But if you're familiar with the diaphragm, which is a form of non-hormonal birth control, you will already have an idea of how to use this cup. And the reason I personally prefer it is because you can wear the Flex during sex without any hindrance. And that's been sort of amazing because while period sex is totally fine, it's nice to not have a mess every time we do it. Anyway, Frida, we've got one last product to go over.
Quite right, Bella. So the last but not least are leak-proof underwear. There are a lot of brands to choose from, but the one that is most popular that you're probably familiar with is Thinx. That's Thinx.
That's because they have so many ads on Facebook. Or maybe it's just me who sees the ads on Facebook, because I see them all the time.
I also see them all the time.
Yeah.
And period panties are similar to cloth pads in theory, but companies like Thinx boast that their underwear can be worn without any backup protection, and some of their designs can hold more than 2 times the amount of blood absorbed by a tampon. And I think that about covers it.
Yeah, I think you're right. Of course, definitely check out the show notes this week because all of this info has sources and links, and we want you to be able to see what we're talking about.
There's also a lot of videos on YouTube. There's a ton of products out there, and everybody's bodies are different. So educate yourself, take a look what's out there, and think about what fits your needs. We're just kind of giving you the background.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't listen to Dr. Dan Dobbs. He's right in one thing, periods are not gross, but he's wrong in everything else.
Right. Or wrong.
Yes. Wrong. Yes, wrong.
It's time to celebrate with Miss Andrea's Bathhouse. It has been 1 year of smashing the patriarchy and smelling marvelous together. That's right, it's been 1 whole year since Miss Andrews has been in business, and they're celebrating with the best beauty box ever. This month, and this is for the April box, your box will feature 7 celebratory samples and a bunch of extra fun party favors, including artwork, trinkets, candy, stickers, and more super fun secret stuff. Make sure you follow them on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Tumblr for super secret sneak peeks throughout the month. Pre-orders will be open throughout the month of March, and boxes will ship April 1st. Because they have so many fun extras from their favorite artists and crafters, sales are limited for this one, and we cannot guarantee that the box won't sell out early. As usual, U.S. shipping is included in the box price, and international shipping is only $10. So check it out at www.missandry.com. That's MSANDRY.com.
Bella Constrictor here with a new segment called Roundtable. Basically just a discussion with some great people. We've got Miss Anne here.
Hello.
And Jeanne from PolyAskery Podcast. Welcome.
Hi.
Welcome to Promoting Secular Feminism.
Thank you so much.
I'm glad you're on. I like listening to your podcast and the stuff you have to say, so I'm excited to hear you talk on this particular topic because I don't think you guys have done periods on PolyAskery yet, have you?
No. Interesting. I'll have to talk to Shane about that.
Yeah, periods are messy and fun.
They're poly-applicable.
Yeah, definitely.
What do you want to start with?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. So this whole particular episode is about menstruation in general, and my vision for this discussion, I guess, was kind of just just talking to your gal pals about your periods, like sort of over tea almost, Of course, we're all in different rooms, which kind of sucks, but just a camaraderie. I know that, we've got a lot of people. I think we have a lot of male listeners, and so I want them to sort of understand periods in a different light for more than just they bleed and they make us hurt,
Oh,
That
yeah.
is the least
or
of
we bleed and yeah, so or maybe yeah,
and they hurt.
But we just discussed in the previous segment about just different types of period products and things that you can use, like the Thinx underwear. Although I just discovered that Thinx is not the only company that does, what are they called?
Like reusable period underwear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're bleeding accessories.
Yeah.
Bleeding
accessories.
Have you ever used those? Because I'm so curious as to like how that works. Because I only get a period like every 3 or 4 months, but because I have an IUD.
Yeah.
But I would really be interested in trying something like that out. I think that'd be cool.
I actually got a 3-pack, one of those like special deals, and unfortunately ordered them slightly too large.
What I like about Thinx, as far as product goes, is that they boast that like some of their underwears can hold like 2 tampons worth of blood.
That's ridiculous.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, not all of them, because they have like thongs and stuff too, but some of their cuts hold like a ton of blood.
Yeah.
I've been using like menstrual cups for almost 4 years now, and I'll never go back.
Well, you use disposable ones, you said, I think, earlier.
Yes.
Yeah.
The company's called Flex.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I love Flex because of the way it like sits.
That's pretty key.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're shaped very much like a diaphragm would be shaped. Mm-hmm. So diaphragms are kind of like, Like boobs, you know, like, but they're not like bell-shaped like the regular menstrual cup is. They,
well, I've used them too in the past, and I can't describe them either, other than it's just like it's a cup for, instead of a diaphragm, it's a cup to keep things in instead of keep things out.
Yeah, but they sit in the same place that the diaphragm does, as far as I can tell. But while the menstrual cup itself, usually like the Diva cup, they sit in the vaginal canal, the same place that the tampon would sit.
I'm actually a Diva cup kind of girl.
Yeah.
And I kind of find that they sit, at least for me, they kind of sit roughly in the same place. They just fit differently. Because I've used the disposable cups before. So
can you have sex with them in?
Oh, God, no.
See, that's why I prefer...
Well, it depends on what kind of sex you're talking about.
Penetrative sex.
Yes.
Because with Flex, I can have sex with the cup in. Like, it doesn't move, it doesn't bother, like, the dick at all, or whatever you're sticking up there.
Actually, I had a guy who really, really liked the disposable cups because every time he pulled, like, there was, like, that little bit of a bump, and he'd be like, whoa.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
So is it, like, designed that way, or is that just, like, a perk?
I think it's a perk.
Wait, so what do you use, Miss Anne?
So I usually just use tampons, because they're cheaper than a Diva cup. Well, I guess in the long run. I guess in the long run they're not, but I am on a college girl budget. Yeah. So, you know, if I'm paying more than like $8 at a time for a box, then I'm doing too much.
I know what to get you for your birthday. I can talk about the drawbacks for Diva cups, at least for me.
Sure.
Constipation.
Oh.
It takes up like a bit of room.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Like, it's flexible, but it's not as flexible as like the soft cup or the Flex that you're talking about, Bella. So I find that I can wear one during the day when I'm working.
Right.
But then I usually take it out, and like, unless it's really, really heavy, like I'll give myself a good like couple of hours to let everything kind of like settle, take a good poop, and then either put something else back in or just, you know, sleep with something a little bit lighter, like maybe a light tampon or something. But yeah, and that's just me, so I don't know if that's a common thing for most women, but I also get constipated before my period.
Oh yeah, I do too. So I'm always constipated like 3 or 4 days before my period. So
see, I don't think I've ever really noticed. I just like poop more when I'm on my period.
I do too, but I think maybe like I get confused because the cramps sometimes feel like I have to poop. And then I just sit there for like 30 minutes. I'm like,
okay, so
well,
I just had hemorrhoid surgery on Monday, so don't sit there for too long, just saying.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely not. You know, sometimes you just get on Twitter and, you know, scroll for a while.
Things happen.
Follow us on Twitter. I'll tweet while I poop. Or try to.
I could be pooping when I tweet, you never know.
Well, I know the constipation thing is something like because your uterus is like twice as large when you're on your period, isn't it? And it just like literally shoves your intestines or whatever.
Right.
I'm not a scientist.
Yeah.
But also it has a lot to do with like hormones, like the hormones that are coming down to your uterus to tell your uterus that it's time to have a period. Some of them get redirected or lost and go to, you know,
your colon.
Thank you. I was like, it's not your bladder.
No, the other one.
The other one, yeah. So and then for some reason your body's like, oh, okay, I will make more poop. That's what I will do with this stuff. The two main chemicals that chemical signals to blame are prostaglandins and progesterone, which I know more about than the other one. Yeah. But apparently, so I should really be able to say this word, but I think I'm saying it right. Prostaglandins. That's the one that signals the uterus to contract, which pushes out your uterine lining, so you get your period. But what most likely happens is that some of it gets lost and heads down to your bowels, which causes that to contract, making you feel like you have to poop and causing gas.
Wow. I'm learning so much already.
That's what I like to hear. I like to teach. But yeah, so that's why period poops are a thing. And you know, I don't remember getting them in high school. To be honest.
Oh, I do.
Yeah. I didn't get it. Yeah. I was the luckiest. I was the teenager that got like a couple pimples, and my only like symptom for periods was I recognized that they always started on Sunday.
I hate you,
but
darling.
That was me during high school. It was great. And then I got on birth control and discovered that it can be much, much worse.
Oh, no.
That's interesting.
See, I got on birth control so that it would get better because here's my period origin story.
Yay!
I'm like the Wolverine.
Please tell me it involves adamantium.
Yes, obviously it does. No, unfortunately, I wish. Wouldn't that be awesome?
Adamantium uterus. I wonder what that would look like.
Maybe,
Well, I was more thinking like a dildo would be fun.
That would be fun.
That would... Yeah, okay. Now I'm off track.
Go
Okay,
back to your
so
origin story.
I got...
Yes,
I got my period for the first time when I was in 5th grade. So I was super young and had no idea what was happening. I thought I was pooping blood and I was really concerned, and I was at a friend's house, and I called my mom, and she was like, "You're a woman now, congratulations!"
And you're just sobbing. I don't want to.
Yeah, I was like, "What is wrong with me? I have butt cancer." I don't know, man. I was confused about what was happening, but for the first couple years, it was on and off. I would bleed for a month, and then I would not bleed for 3 months, something like that. And that's a theme in my family. My sister has PCOS. That's polycystic ovarian syndrome. So she has that. And my mom had even worse periods. She got her first one when she was 9 years old. And she's been on birth control since the age of 9 because her first period she bled for 9 months.
Oh my goodness.
So I ended up going on the shot, the Depo-Provera shot, which I know I've heard so many horror stories about. Mm-hmm. And I had already heard them when I got the shot, but I cannot describe to you how horrible my period was at that point. I was a sophomore in high school, and I was missing about 2 days of school a month because I would wake up in the morning throwing up because my stomach hurt so bad. Wow. And then I would go cry for a while, then throw up again, and I couldn't eat anything except for dry toast for the first 2 days of my period because something about all food was just disgusting to me. And so I had gone to the doctors several times about it, and they were like, "Oh, you just have PMS." And I was like, "Yeah, well, I want to die, so let's do something about that."
Yes, yeah. Don't just tell me I'm bad. Just make this better.
I have gotten cramps that involve throwing up. They're really bad sometimes. So
yeah, it was awful. So I ended up getting the Depo shot when I was a sophomore in high school, and they told me that I would bleed on and off sometimes, but it would fix some other stuff. And oh my god, that was probably the best decision I could have made at that point in my life. They say not to use it for I think more than 3 years at a time. So I ended up getting off it and getting an IUD. But I only had my period maybe every 3 or 4 months. When I did, it instead of lasting, 2 to 3 weeks, it would last 4 days and then just go away, or I would get spotting. And my cramps were still horrible and the period poops were still horrible, but I wasn't throwing up every time I got my period, and I wasn't missing school, and I could eat. So, great decision. Unfortunately, I did gain 25 pounds from the Depo shot. I was very... Yes.
How did you end up choosing to do shot rather than pills or hormonal IUD?
Well, because I am irresponsible, and I knew for a fact that I would not remember to take a hormonal pill every single day at the same time.
That's smart.
I started the Depo shot before I was sexually active, and I was absolutely terrified to go to a gynecologist and have them stick something inside me.
Dude, I didn't even use tampons until I started being sexually active.
Oh, really?
Put nothing in my vagina until I was 20.
The first time I used a tampon was on my first date, actually, because we were going swimming, and I was like...
Because pads are smelly.
Well, no, because we were going swimming, and you can't wear a pad in the water. And I was like, okay, I gotta suck it up and be a big girl. And I did it. I was so proud of myself. Yay. So we went swimming. It was great.
And this is why I like cups.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Although... when I was in high school, I was always told, and I was always too afraid to, try it out, that you can go swimming without putting anything in, because, the pressure from the water kind of keeps you from...
No.
That's
No,
not
I've gone swimming without putting anything in. I've ruined a swimsuit. Please don't do that.
I don't plan on doing it.
That's
Stop
awesome.
up your hole. You're going to ruin your swimsuit if you do that. Unless it's like the last couple days. I think that should be fine. But if you wouldn't wear normal underwear, then you shouldn't. Yeah.
Oh, actually, here's a related something. Is during your cycle, like when you bleed, what does it look like? Because mine, like I usually have maybe like a little bit of spotting the first day, and then I bleed like a motherfucker for 2, maybe 3, and then the last 1 or 2 is just like nothing.
Mine changes based on what birth control I'm on. Like right now, I just get major like brown spotting for a week, and that's really normal for an IUD. But when I was like on other kinds of birth control or pre-birth control, I would bleed like a stuck pig, like horribly, like bright red giant blood clots for like 5 days. And then I would have like spotting for a few days after that.
Yeah, so I guess I don't notice so much when I'm using the cup. I haven't really paid that much attention, but I guess when I was using the pad, yeah, I would get like brown spotting. It's kind of the same as yours, Jeannie. Like brown spotting, lots of blood for a couple of days, and then my period has always been very normal, bleeding for a couple of days pretty heavily. When I'm on the cup, I forget that I'm on my period 100% of the time.
Wow, that's nice.
Yeah, so like for the first 2 or 3 days, I'll remember, and I'll be like, oh yeah, and so I'll bleed pretty heavily for the first 2 or 3 days where I have to empty the cup out. But then, like, the last 2 days, I'll forget one day and then go to bed and then wake up the next morning and be like, oh, yeah. And then usually it's like, it's not full or anything. It's all, like, stuck to the sides and usually just a little bit brown.
Yeah.
Actually, so here's a question for you. When I find that my cup gets full or, like, starts filling up, like, I'll start feeling, it's like that kind of have to poop sort of crampy feeling. Like, oh, right, like I'm wearing my cup, I should probably change this. Like, it needs to be emptied. Have you haven't noticed anything like that?
No, I don't feel it ever. It's very nice. I mean, the thing with the flex, though, the downside that most people would have, which I don't have because, I don't know, I mentioned this before, like, I find period blood, or before with Miss Anne, like, I find period blood fascinating and, like, not gross at all. Always have. So, like with the flex, you really have to stick your fingers up there and like pull it out, and you're going to get blood all over you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is not a public bathroom sort of thing.
Well, like, I don't mind. Usually, I'll just like, if I'm in a public bathroom, I'll just like stuff toilet paper in there and clean it off and clean myself off a little bit and then put it back in.
Go wash your hands.
Yeah. And then wash my hands. But yeah, like I don't have any, I'm like, this is whatever, but I don't usually do it in a public bathroom because I don't have to, because I can just go all day.
Man, dorm life is kind of bringing me down a little bit. I mean, it's nothing to be embarrassed about, so I guess it's not that big of a deal. I'm like you, I don't really find period blood gross. My hall is all females, my residents are, so I really don't think they'd mind. It's just kind of, I don't know. I'm like, there's an extra step I don't want to add to my routine.
Okay, so I am significantly older than both of you guys, apparently. So I have a lot broader range of experience with things like this. Because, for instance, like I got on birth control because my mom found out that I had started my period, and she said, "You don't want sex now," because I was a good Christian at the time, and you're going to find a boy and you're going to have sex and you're going to get pregnant and you're going to give it to me, and I don't want it because I've already raised 2 kids. Have birth control.
Well, that was a good intentions, I guess.
Yes. So I took the pill for, oh my goodness. I want to say it was close to 10 years. I actually got pregnant on the pill, and this is being like super responsible, like within a 5-minute window, one way or the other, for years. And I still got pregnant.
But I don't know. I feel like the pills have changed, like technology-wise, and they're better now.
I'm sure they have.
No,
little better, different.
Yeah, I like that. Little better, different.
But it took me, when I stopped taking the pill as hormonal birth control, it probably took me I'm going to say like close to 2 years
to normalize
for my body to, for my body to readjust.
Yeah. Oh no, you go ahead.
I was going to say, and I haven't taken any other form of hormonal birth control, either the shot or IUD. So I'm actually really curious to see if you took the shot, did you have that like weird spike for the first 3 or 4 days where your body's just like, whoa, what am I going to do with this?
No, actually, I felt really normal.
Her body was like, I'm ready.
Yeah, my body was ready. I was ready.
Yeah.
And I think I was just so like excited to be getting something to fix my issues that I was like, I do not care if I end up having like side effects, because they're not going to be any worse than the side effects I already have with my period.
Yeah.
Whatever happened, the first month probably was an adjustment, but it was so much of a relief because it was not as bad as I had felt, for the 6 years prior to that. I did, for some reason, or I know the reason behind this, I literally did not feel satisfaction from eating. Like, I was always hungry, and I couldn't tell when I was full. So if you're someone who has, like, disordered eating problems or something like that, or don't have a good grasp on, like, how much food you need anyway, then I think that the Depo-Provera is, like, the worst thing that you could do, because you really have, like, it just makes you always want food. So that's why I gained 25 pounds. It wasn't, like... I think a lot of people, there's like this misconception that it's like water weight or bloating or something when you gain weight on the shot, and it's really not. It's that the hormones don't allow your body to know that you're done eating. Unless you like watch what you eat, you're going to eat way too much. I was putting in like 5,000 calories a day at some points. So, and I was pretty active, but not that active.
When I was in college and I decided to go on birth control, because I was ready to start having sex, that's a fun story. When I walked into Planned Parenthood as a virgin and was like, I want to be on birth control. And they're like, okay, have you started having sex yet? And I'm like, no, I'm being proactive. And they taught me so much. They were like, here's how to put on a condom. You're such a rare bird. You're being, oh my God.
That's so nice.
Oh yeah, they were. I love Planned Parenthood. Anyway,
P.S. listeners, support your local Planned Parenthood.
Oh, definitely. And I was talking to somebody about how I feel safer going to a Planned Parenthood, even for something normal that I could go to a clinic for, or like a health clinic for, because I know that those women are there to help me, and they want to be there because they put up with so much shit to be there.
Yes.
So.
Oh, I actually called my Planned Parenthood at some point, like. It was just like, you know what, I've got an extra $20 to spend.
Yeah.
I'm going to call my local Planned Parenthood and donate. And it actually took me being on hold for 45 minutes for them to figure out how to take a donation. How fucking sad is that? They're just not used to somebody calling up and saying like, hey, I want to give you money. Go keep being on.
I'm sure with like local ones, that's probably the case because people mostly just donate over the internet. I did want to donate yesterday when I was there and paid for my thing. She was like, can you donate? And I was like, well... You did just take all of my money, so I can't.
So not right now.
To donate.
Yeah. But, yeah, so that's a different story. But anyway, so I got on birth control, and it didn't affect my periods, except that I started cramping really bad, and birth control itself, like hormonal birth control, fucks with my moods. Every different kind I've ever been on has turned me manic. So, I don't know, it probably made me PMSy like crazy, but all the time. But yeah, no, getting off of it, the last time I tried it was a few years ago, and I was probably only on it for 2 months. But I don't remember the 2 months, so that's why why I quit.
Wow.
Goodness.
I think it took almost 6 months for me to like mentally and physically like get back to normal. But ever since the first time I was on it, I've always had like really bad cramps. The one story that I think is worth sharing, other than every other really bad cramp story, is that this one time I was at it was like a theme park, not a theme park, but what do you call it?
Amusement park?
Thank you, an amusement park. You can tell I go to those very often. I was at an amusement park with a new boyfriend. It was like our first or second time hanging out, and it was really hot outside, and I didn't even know I was supposed to start my period, and we were in line for this new ride, and it was a very long line, and I felt fine, but then like the closer and closer that we got to the ride, like I started to get cramps. but I didn't really realize they were cramps. I was just like, I got like heat stroke, and I was like, I'm gonna faint. I don't feel good. We literally were like 3 people away from getting on the ride, and I sat down, and he said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Well, no."
Oh, no.
I can't go on this ride. We had been standing in line for like almost an hour or 2.
Oh my
goodness.
goodness.
A long time.
Yeah.
And I sat down, and he was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, No, I'm not. I'm gonna faint, I think. So I'm sitting down. The ride people like brought me water and asked if I was okay. And I told him, I was like, I'm not going on this ride. Like, I clearly can't. And he looked really torn. And I was like,
see you in 15 minutes, baby.
Well, I gave him permission. I was like, I'm about to go. I don't want him near me. I'm going to go into the bathroom and deal with my shit, like, if I find out what's wrong with me. And so he went on the ride, and I went down to the bathroom and was just like, I'm dying. And then, but it's like, once you realize that it's just period cramps, that fear of dying, you're just like, oh, it's this. Motherfucker.
Yeah, but you still hate your life.
Yeah, it was a pretty bad experience. And I don't know why, but with him, I had the worst. Like, I was like normal period cramps, whatever. And then like my first 2 or 3 periods with him, I was always with him when I was cramping, and I was dying.
Huh, like maybe he like made you angry in some way, made you like nervous, and that messed up your hormones. I'm totally extrapolating data here. I have no idea how hormones work, but yeah.
It might have just been the addition of sex all of a sudden.
Oh yeah, that could have been it as well.
But like the next period was, we were running errands, and suddenly I started cramping, and when you're like cramping and you're in a car and you're literally trying to find a place to get comfortable, and your feet end up on the ceiling of the car.
Yes. Yep. We've all been there.
Yeah. So that was me, and I was like, you need to take me home right now. And he was like, are you okay? No.
Do I look okay?
I'm not okay. And I was like, it was just so dramatic, and I'm not a very dramatic person.
I did have an amusement park ride experience, like really similar to yours, Bella. I was, like Harry Potter is like my favorite thing in the world. So of course, the day that I went to Harry Potter World, I like woke up that morning and threw up, and I was like, great, I have my period. But it would literally have taken the Dark Lord himself to keep me from going to Harry Potter World. So I, just sucked it up, and I went, and I ended up passing out right outside of the Hogwarts Express.
Oh no.
I know. I woke up and someone was handing me butterbeer, and I was like, okay, this is not the worst thing that could happen. And somebody in my group ended up saying, okay, we got to take you to like the medic tent because you passed out and I'm worried about you. You seem dehydrated. I was like, oh no, I'm just on my period. I'm fine. And she was like, oh my God, no, we're going to the medical tent. So we like walk halfway there, and my cramps get so bad. I'm like, I need to sit down for a second. So at this point we're in Jurassic Park. I don't know if you're like very aware of like the layout of Universal Studios, but it was a bit of a hike. So we're in the middle of Jurassic Park, and I remember I sat down beside like this little like velociraptor looking thing, and she went to buy me a bottle of water because she was like very concerned I was dehydrated, and I ended up lying down on the ground like underneath this dinosaur, and I fell asleep in Jurassic Park beneath a dinosaur because I was having horrible period cramps. And so she like comes up to me, she's like, oh my God, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm just like resting, I'm fine. And then I got up and I threw up because I got up too fast, and she was like, actually thinks I'm dying. So we get to the medical tent. I sleep there.
You're like, no, this happens to me every month. It's fine.
Once a month. I'm fine. So we get to the medical tent, and they give me some like medicine for fever because apparently that's very hot. But it was like 98 degrees outside, so of course that was really hot, So they thought I had like a virus or something, but I was like, no, I'm fine. And they made me sleep for like an hour in the like little cot bed thing they have in there. And then I got up and I walked my happy ass back to Harry Potter World because I was going to ride that Quidditch ride if it killed me. And that is the story of how I slept under a dinosaur.
Wow. That's a really awesome story.
Thank you. I'm just full of them.
Oh, excellent. You guys were talking about cramping. And, well, before I lived in a shitty apartment, I used to have a really good kitchen, and I love to cook. And I learned how to cook for a lot of other people. So I cooked in cast iron a lot. And I actually found that I noticed that when I'm cramping more, it's because I haven't been cooking in cast iron recently.
What the hell? Is that a thing?
It's like iron.
I don't know, but like,
yeah,
it's a thing for me. You know, like I know
there
that
are supplements you can take. I don't remember what they're called, but some sort of like, I think it, you know, something similar to iron, or maybe it is iron supplements. But there are supplements you can take during the rest of your cycle that are supposed to lower your risk of cramping.
Well, I think that's just it. Like my symptoms are, I get stinky armpits. Like that's when I know my period's coming. I'm just like, whoa, that's a little too much. You know, constipation. Sometimes I'll get clumsy or unfocused. But yeah, if I'm cramping, it's usually because I'm not cooking in cast iron.
That's interesting. And I cook on cast iron all the time because I have one of those like flat covers up two of my stove thing, like cast iron things. I don't
like a griddle.
Yeah, like
a griddle.
Cast iron griddle. Yeah, because and I cook on that like 95% of the time that I'm cooking, so not what's keeping me from having cramps.
Interesting.
But
Interesting.
because everybody's different.
Well, I know, but like
there's no
these are just my
way to
symptoms
put anybody in a box.
Amazing.
But you were talking about like bloody chunks earlier too. And there was a time that I went through, I shattered my wrist and I live alone. So yeah, that kind of limits my social life / mobility. And I went through like this really like massive weight gain. Within a couple of months, I probably gained something like 50, 60 pounds.
Was it because of the injury?
Well, it was because I was less mobile.
Right.
And I've always had very physical jobs. And so I went from being very, very physical to being almost immobile because it was seriously like hours of, you know, ice on wrist, arm elevated, you know, it was shattered. It was bad.
Yeah.
And then I went through a little bit of a job after that, and then a long time of looking for another job. So part of it was probably depression, just immobility. Yeah. And my period changed dramatically. So I went from a very, very regular period, not on any hormonal anything, but my period had been regular for 10, 15 years, to being sporadic, where I would, like, there were times where I seriously bled for 6 weeks at a time, and it was heavy and chunky and just like constant. And then when I started losing that weight after I got another job, like it's taken another 5-6 years for me to kind of get back to what's kind of now my new normal, but I'm also approaching menopause.
Right.
So I have no idea what my period's actually going to look like at this point because my body's changed so much within 10 years.
So my mother is going through menopause, and she told me something that happens apparently that nobody talks about because it happened to her. She didn't know what was going on, and then when she asked all of her friends who'd also gone through menopause, they were like, oh yeah, I remember that happening. And she was like, why the fuck didn't you tell me? Apparently it'll like, it's not like a period, it's just like you will suddenly just gush. She told me it was like gushing blood. She was like, I just woke up one day and suddenly like, and she was on vacation she was like, the whole hotel room was white. And I brought white shorts because she lives in Florida. No. And she was like, oh no, I was bleeding. Yeah. I literally she was like, I was going through like a tampon an hour and like bleeding through pads. Like it was crazy. And she would have to go back.
That happened to my mom too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was horrified.
And she, like, so my mom hadn't had a period in, like, 6 or 7 years, something like that. And she came to me one day and she was like, do you have a tampon? And I was like, yeah, why? And she's like, well, sometimes when you get old, your body just decides that you deserve an extra period just for fun. And I was like, I thought you were done with that. She's like, well, me too.
Oh,
being a woman is so much fun, guys.
It really is.
Yeah, listen up. At least, like, I'm going to say you're lucky because your mom is actually going through menopause, whereas most of the female people that are my biological relations either will never fucking talk about it because they're way too conservative, or they all had some sort of like female issue, or it was just...
It just didn't happen.
Well, and that's what you did, was you just got a hysterectomy, so I call it instapause.
Yeah.
So my sister's younger than me, and she has a daughter, so I'm going to be the first person in like this genealogy bloodline that's going to be able to tell my sister, and she might get there before me. Like, she started getting gray hairs, and I've got one gray hair. I think it's still there, and she's had them for 10 years. So who knows? But yeah, it's really weird that I'm going to be the first person kind of to help my sister figure out maybe what menopause looks like.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a big responsibility. Oh, shit.
Okay, well, actually, we're at about an hour, which is way over what our normal listeners are going to get.
Oh, yeah.
We don't have to stop chatting. I just wanted to say that thank you so much for talking to us and joining us on our podcast, Jeannie, and I'm looking forward to having you come back.
That would be awesome. And I really am... I'm actually a big fan of PSF right now. I've kind of rediscovered it and am enjoying what you guys are doing.
Yeah, we're definitely growing.
Oh, yes.
Yes. And kind of by leaps and bounds. It's been kind of astonishing to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Pumpkin, yeah.
It's good to hear. I'm just so happy to be part of this.
Thank you for listening to PSF, Promoting Secular Feminism. To find more episodes, you can go to our website at www.promotingsecularfeminism.com, or to get in touch, you can email us at promotingsecularfeminism@gmail.com. You can also find us on iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher, and YouTube. Don't forget to look for us and subscribe on your favorite social media sites. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode, and please send Ms Bea Haven some love and support as she recovers from her harrowing medical adventure.
It is worn externally between the vulva. The vulva. It's kind of like vavavoom, but vavavol.
Mm-hmm.